Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Four Corners Softball Podcast. We're back for another episode today. Took a week off. I had some work stuff to take care of. Karen was traveling the world, going to see family, but hey, we're back. I'm Kyle Parmley, the sports editor at Starnes Media in Birmingham, joined by Karen Johns. Karen, how's it going today?
It's going great. Beautiful weather. Can't ask for better for softball season.
Yeah, well, Karen, I'm sure you've got some softball games to work this weekend, right? Who are you going to be checking out?
I am diving into the ACC this weekend, working with Pam Ward and Jenny Dalton on a couple of ACC matchups, doing that from home. So I will get Duke and Louisville, and I will get Virginia Tech and North Carolina. So it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe you'll get to see them again down the road and you'll know everything you need to know about them, right?
That's right.
Sounds good. Well, hey, let's go ahead and dive right in. We've got plenty of cool stuff coming on the podcast today. And let's get rolling with our leading off segment. Let's talk about the Auburn Tigers. Auburn reaches 20 wins last weekend. They're one of a handful of teams in the nation to hit that mark so far. They are getting great pitching and some explosive offense so far. Karen, how have you felt about the games you've seen from Auburn this year?
Oh, man, I feel so good about this team this year. They are solid in the circle. They have depth, and Bree Ellis has stepped right into 2023 like 2022 never ended.
Absolutely.
It's knocking the ball out of the park. So everything is falling in line for them. The key for Auburn is to play consistently on defense, and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Maddie Pinto's barely giving up a hit. Shelby Lowe's healthy. And you're even getting some contributions from Annabelle Weidra, Isis Tresvik, Emma Rolfe. I mean, that pitching staff is talented, it's deep. And then when you complement that with an offense that puts runs up on the board, that could be quite a challenge for the opposition come SEC time.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The SEC is very balanced this year. There's no one just really standing out. And so it's for someone to take. And Auburn has definitely put themselves in a position to be one of the teams that could take it.
Yeah, and SEC play gets started this upcoming weekend. As a matter of fact, we will talk a little bit more about the SEC slate coming down the line later in this show. But yeah, Mickey Dean's doing a great job this year at Auburn. Looking forward to seeing what the Tigers can do as they dive into conference play. 20 wins I mean, they got there pretty quick. So we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, so I want to take this time. I want to thank First Choice Properties for partnering with us on the Four Corners Softball Pod this year. If you're looking for a place to rent, why not work with someone local? First Choice Properties is exactly that. They've got available properties in Jefferson, Shelby, St. Clair, and Tuscaloosa counties here in central Alabama. They also have no deposit options, and a full list of available properties can be found on their website, firstchoiceproperties.com. We'll show that up here on the screen. You can also give them a call at 205-433-9811. So big thanks to First Choice Properties for helping us out this year, get this show up and rolling. But Karen, let's go ahead and get with our headline interview today. We are talking to University of Montevallo coach Beth Wade. Coach Wade has been around the block. She's coached at a lot of different places, and one thing that I have noticed along with her career journey is the wins seem to follow wherever she goes, whether she's been an assistant or a head coach. Have you ever met Coach Wade?
I've not met Coach Wade in person, but I've read a lot about her. And I know, one, she's super smart. I know that based off of her bio. She's got a couple engineering degrees and all kinds of good stuff. And so I'm really looking forward to this interview, the questions you ask her, the things that we can hear from her, and just to get to know her.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get to that right now. Beth Wade. Well, we're thrilled to have University of Montevallo head coach Beth Wade with us today. Coach Wade, how's it going today?
Going well.
So give us a little insight into how the season's going so far. I know we're right at that early in the conference season and really starting to get into the heavy slate.
Yeah, it started off, we had the opening round bye. The second week we went to Christian Brothers, got completely rained out. So last weekend was our first actual conference games. We hosted UAH. They're having a great year, ranked 11th in the country right now. We did wind up taking one game from them here, so that was good. We have shorter this weekend, but we're really young. We have 12 new players this year. We have 8 returning kids, but it's just a mix. It's a really good mix of freshmen and transfers and a couple upperclassmen, seniors that are contributing, and so it's a pretty good mix. But honestly, like, I feel like we're getting better. The more we play, the better we get, the more comfortable they get with each other. We've pretty much got, depending on the lineup, 7 new players on the field out of 9. So it's just a lot of young and new and getting used to each other. And I've been happy the way we've been progressing.
Yeah, well, that was definitely one of the things that I wanted to ask you about this team. Like, so it's your second year at Montevallo, but the roster's turned over so much. So how do you deal with that with so many new faces? Because I'm imagining it feels a lot like year one in a lot of ways.
Yeah, freshmen, you love them. They're great, but I think I'm getting more and more gray hair the more every day we go. But you got to live with the good and you got to live with the bad, and they just continue to get better. And the future of the program is going to continue to get better the more experience they get. But we got one of our kids, Sydney Reeves, got freshman of the week this week. She hit 4 bombs. Center fielder. I think we've got some good young talent, and I think we've got some good older talent. It's just a big mix and getting used to each other. But the roster turned over pretty good for 1 year. I feel like I'm a little bit like I'm back at junior college with all the new kids. But new isn't always bad. It's just different, and I think they just got to get used to each other, and the more comfortable they get, I feel like we play better now than we did at opening weekend. I feel like in a month we'll be better than what we're playing right now. So I think that in and of itself is just a really good thing, and something that they feel like they're getting better and getting more comfortable with each other, and so I think as long as we're doing that, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I know one thing that Karen and I noticed, just kind of looking at the season and the progress so far, is obviously there was that 17-14 game with Columbus State, but as a whole, it seems like you guys are swinging the bat pretty well. So are you pleased with that side of the ball?
Yeah. I think offensively we do a pretty good job. Offense can come and go, and it's a little bit different from what I'm used to. I'm used to just kind of depending on pitching and defense, and that's a little bit old school. But the more that we can hit, the better it is on our pitching staff. We're really young. We got a 5th-year transfer, and we've got 2 freshmen. And they're learning. I know the stats don't look great, but they're learning and they're getting better, and they're learning when can I attack the zone and when do I not need to. And again, you gotta take the good with the bad. And they're eager and they're learning, and but I think we're swinging it well. I think that's we had a kid last year, Sierra Easterwood, that just went off offensively for us and had 20 home runs, led the conference, and everybody wanted to talk about that this year. And I said, look, I don't expect anyone to hit 20 bombs, but I do feel like collectively our team can probably either reach or exceed the team home run total that we had last year. And I think we're well on our way to doing that. I think it's just there's more power and depth throughout the lineup than just coming from a couple of kids. So that just makes us harder to throw to. When you got your 6-hole hitting 5 or 6 home runs already as a freshman, it's kind of spread out. So it just makes it harder you can't really take a breath. I think, when you face us, like, it's not 1 through 4 and then you can kind of ease off. I think you got to be careful throughout our lineup. And if not, they've shown they can make you pay for it. So, defense has been pretty solid. We've had a couple of games where it wasn't pretty, but honestly, for the most part, our defense has been pretty solid. And we're playing a couple people out of position. Ellie's done a great job at shortstop for us, even though that's not her true position. Again, coming back to, she can field a ground ball and make a throw, but the mental side of where do I be on this and how we're doing these coverages and that part of things for her and our second baseman. Our second baseman has never played second base before. She's actually a heck of a catcher. But we needed her to play second base. So we've kind of just been trying to find the right pieces to put together and make put the best nine on the field. So they are continuing to grow. The middle infield is getting better every day, and they're getting more comfortable with each other and the coverages. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. So where do you feel like things are at as far as a program building perspective? Like when you're out recruiting in the summer and the fall, like is there a lot of positive momentum from your perspective?
Yeah, I think so. I think just some fresh blood in here was probably a good thing. I think we've had some good receptive feedback from a lot of the local high schools. We've been trying to get out and see, Birmingham is really good in softball. Like it has some really tough softball. And we want to try to keep some of that talent here. We don't want it going, especially D2, other places in our conference, but trying to steal some of those kids that are potentially D1 level kids that maybe want to stay close to home. Like the more we can do that, the better our program's we're gonna build our program here. So really trying to focus on some of that local talent. And at the end of the day, we can still go recruit from other places, but trying to just get in sync with some of these high school coaches. I mean, Thompson right here in our backyard is really good in softball,
right?
Good tradition, but I mean, it's throughout Birmingham. I mean, y'all know. So I think that's a big key to helping us move the program forward, is trying to keep some of that local talent at home.
Yeah, no, I love and appreciate that perspective, because one of my favorite things is having a college roster that's full of players that are from around the places that I'm familiar with in the state. And I think that generates a lot of interest and it's really cool. So keep going with that. And then,
yeah, I think early on, we're having to reach out to other places, but I think
Sure.
The more we can build, the more we win here, the more hopefully people will want to stay home,
Yeah, no doubt. Well, you mentioned it a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the depth of the Gulf South. Like this is not a 2 or 3 team league. Like you got to bring it every weekend.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that was a big draw for me coming through Montevallo. I think it's one of the best leagues in Division II for softball, most competitive, and that's where you want to be. Like you want to be in a league that you got to show up every day, but you're also getting 3 to 4 teams into postseason. You don't really want to be in a league where you got to win it or you don't get in. I think that helps us make us stronger throughout the year and helps make you strong and able to move through the postseason once you get there. I think the history of the conference with Valdosta, with UAH, with West Florida, AUM, those 4 traditionally have probably been at the top. And then there's a lot of others knocking on the door. West Alabama has done well this year. Mississippi College is having a really good year. You never know where it's going to come from, and you can't. I was talking to Les at UAH last weekend, and you can't. There's no off weekend. Yeah. If you do, you'll get beat. I mean, last weekend, Shorter took Valdosta State to extra innings twice. They went 9 innings and 8 innings with them in 2 out of their 3 games at Shorter. So, yeah. I mean, there literally isn't. If you think you're going to walk on the field and just win them, you're probably going to get beat, Yeah. So, but I mean, that's the fun part. You want to be in a competitive league. You don't want to just have to half show up and be able to win. Like, I just think that's part of the fun of being in this conference.
Oh, heck yeah. No, that's a lot of fun to keep track of. And like you mentioned, like, West Al being at the top right now is really cool. And then those traditional powers, they're going to be right there too.
Yeah, I think usually the Gulf South has 3 to 4 teams ranked in the top 25 in the nation. So that's how tough it is. So when we talk about trying to go, with our program, trying to be, hey, we want to try to get into the top 4, which, most people, if you don't know anything, you're like, oh, you want to be top 4? Well, you're ranked. If you're top 4, you're probably ranked. So, let's start there. and then we'll move from there. But like, give yourself a chance, like, and so that's kind of where we've been trying to build that culture into our program of trying to let's break down that door, get into the top 4, and then move on from there. So
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know one thing that when we were talking before the show, Karen has to know, like, how do you go from engineering to softball coach? Like, how does the career path for you come together?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to coach.
Yeah.
Coaching is one of those things that, in college, that you got to be willing to move. You got to be willing to open up doors. And I honestly wasn't willing to just go anywhere. I knew that. I knew I wanted to be in the Southeast. I knew I didn't want to be, just going all over the country. It's a very unstable job. But at the end of the day, I was, well, I probably shouldn't say that. At the end of the day, I was at the ball field a lot while I was in engineering school. After I was done playing ball, watching and still keeping up with everything. And I got an opportunity to coach, and I had worked full-time 6 months with an engineering company there in Tallahassee, and got the opportunity to be an assistant coach at Division I school. And I set them out, took it and ran with it, and really hadn't. I've been doing it ever since. So.
And does that come with a pay cut?
Just a slight one. Yes. Yeah, my parents weren't too happy about that, but at the end of the day, they got over it, I guess.
They can at least rest in the fact that you started doing what you love, right?
Yeah, that was not a good phone call. I'll tell you that.
So where all have you been since you played at Florida State?
So my first job I took at Appalachian State. I coached there for 3 years. I was down in Boca Raton for a year down at Lynn. I got offered the Troy assistant job that summer and moved back towards home. I was there for a couple of years, and then the Gulf Coast job opened down in Panama City. Really good, conference, Panhandle Conference. So I took that opportunity to go be a head coach and get some experience down there. And I was there for 5 years, and a friend of mine called me about a assistant job at College of Charleston. I kind of took the opportunity to go back to Division I and try to, it wasn't too far from home, good location. So I took that, and then I really wanted to be a head coach again. And so that kind of started me looking at some other options, and this job opened up. I love the Birmingham area. I know a lot of the high school, the area from being at Troy, got a lot of recruiting connections from there. So I just felt like it was a pretty good situation. And the more I looked into the job, the more I knew that it was a really good place to be. So, that's, here we are.
Right. What do you feel like? You even mentioned it earlier, like the roster turnover this year kind of reminds you of JUCO ball a little bit. But like, do you feel like you're a better head coach now than you were when you were at Gulf Coast?
Yeah, I think you're always learning. I think you're always learning, and you're always trying to find better ways to do things. The biggest take that I have from it is I'm not afraid to play freshmen. I mean, when you're there, you're playing freshmen and sophomores, right? So yeah. I think moving out of that, it just made me understand how much, like, freshmen are eager. If they're more athletic, if they have some good tools, they'll learn. And sometimes it's better to learn on the job early and take your pains with it, because the future of it is going to be so much better. So I think that mindset isn't really always there with Division I coaches or whatever. I mean, it's sometimes you just got to take the risk and figure out what's the best option. And sometimes it's freshmen, and live with the good and the bad. But I definitely think I'm a better head coach. I think the more decisions you make, the more comfortable you are making them, and the more you learn and get experience, the better you're going to be with anything that you're doing. So yeah, I definitely would say I'm better now than I was then.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to give you the opportunity to plug your coaching staff and tell us, what a great job they do for you.
Yeah, Coach Reeves does awesome. Works with she has her hands in everything. So she does work with the pitchers, the catchers. We kind of double take on the catchers. And then she played infield and outfield in college. So she works with both. She does a really good job helping with the middle infield, the outfield. She was a slapper, so she works with the short game, the slappers, and helps out with hitting as well. I think once she had an injury in college, they flipped her back to the right side. So she just is kind of I don't know, jack of all trades a little bit. So she has really good input on all aspects of the game, and that's a big help to me when we only have one paid assistant. I think that was a big, um, a big reason why we work together well.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a pitcher. I pitched this way in high school, so I don't know a whole what I know came from probably everything I know about pitching came from Heather Compton or Eve Gaw, and I spent a lot of time with those guys, called a lot of bullpens. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty good with helping pitch calling decisions, but if you want me to correct something they're doing with a curveball, I don't know. I can't help.
Yeah. All right, that helps. Karen, you got anything for Coach Wade?
Yes. Gosh, I thought of so many things as she was talking. And the thing that jumps out, I have two things actually. So my first thing is the thing that jumps out is not only the home runs, but the number of doubles that Montevallo has hit since you have been there. It's a dramatic change from where they were to where you are now. And can you just share with us a little bit of insight? Like, what is it about the power numbers that you do that has created this? Because you are playing young players and you haven't missed a beat. I was talking about Bree Ellis from Auburn earlier with Kyle, and I'm looking at Montevallo softball, and I'm like, you just picked up right where you left off, and with all these new characters in the script. And so tell us a little bit, like, what do you guys do? What do you emphasize? What do you think about with creating all these power numbers?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, they have put in a lot of work. They come in early, they come in during the day, they come in and put work in, and we've stressed that to them, that you will not be very good if you just show up at practice and get what you get in team practice. There's absolutely no way you get enough cuts, you get enough ground balls, you get enough anything. We have to do team stuff in practice, and you're going to get a little bit here and there, but if you want to be good, you got to put the work in. And outside of that, so we do try to do a lot of that, some one-on-one stuff. If they want it, we're here to help. Honestly, from a mechanic standpoint, I don't like cookie cutter swings. There's some things that I really think are good, but I try to just go with what the kid has and tweak it as they're willing to be tweaked. And if there's something I feel like can make them better, reducing a load. Everybody wants to have really big loads, really big leg kicks, really big everything, but it's so hard to be on time and square a barrel if you have a lot of movement. So a lot of times it's honestly just simplifying that, trying to be a little more less movement, less head movement, less square barrel, be on time, and see what happens, because that's, I think, more important. And the home runs have just kind of happened out of that. I don't think it's anything we specifically do other than, trying to reduce. Honestly, most of the kids, we've reduced movement. The freshmen, we've reduced movement. They just don't understand the better pitching you face is so hard to get on time if you have that much movement and you're facing 63, 64, 65 is a lot different than high school ball when you're facing, for the most part, probably 58 to 61. So sometimes we're just trying to be more compact. I think we talk a lot about pitch selection. We talk a lot about counts, when to be aggressive, when not to be, just feeling them out with the mental approach to the at bats, I think has been a big key for some of our young hitters, especially, when to hunt what, and trying to get them to play the game as is, so what's the pitcher doing? What's her tendencies? Is she coming in early often? Is she, what's her pattern? So we try to talk about that. And honestly, like, a lot of hitters don't want a lot of information. So some of it's just baby stepping them into going, okay, I understand you don't want to think, but to beat a good pitcher, you got to think a little bit prior to getting into the box and then be able to shut it off. So some of that's getting spoon feeding them, and they'll get better. And some of our upperclassmen are better at taking info than some of our freshmen, but they're learning. I think that's just trying to find what the kid can do well and just making her doing it a little bit better. I think has been where we're at. I just don't like lineups that have the same swing throughout. We do have quite a few lefties in the lineup, which helps change things for pitchers. Whatever we can do to put runs on the board, we're trying to do, you know.
Well, that's great. That's really good.
I've probably
That's
not,
really
I don't bunt as much as I used to anymore because we need runs. We're trying to score. And if we can hit it well, then I've gone away from that a little bit more than I'm probably comfortable with, but we work on it a lot because I'm stressing to them how much when you get into championship play, it's going to be a tight ball game. We got to be able to put a bunt down and move a runner, you know, because, you know, when you get into the postseason, you're facing all good pitchers. You're not going to put 10 runs on the board every game. So I know we're trying to get there and we're not there yet, but you got to be prepared for that option and that opportunity when you get in the postseason. So
that's good stuff. Yeah, especially with those doubles, you know, getting that runner to third base is so huge. And some kids are really good with situational hitting and some aren't. And those are the ones that have to be able to put the bunts down for you. So I love it. I love everything you said, because when I hear coaches and athletes speak, even at the MLB level, the best hitting coaches, the feedback is always the ones that listen and don't really try to change, but try to just give a bigger broad base as far as their knowledge. And I think that's awesome that you guys are doing that. I loved it. So my question I ask every coach that comes on is, what's your greatest joy in coaching right now? And what is the hardest part about coaching right now?
I mean, greatest joy is seeing that success. You know, you see those players when they've been working on something, they've started to make some adjustments, and then the light bulb comes on and it's just all over their face, man. Like that's just the best feeling in the world. Like for them, you want them to have great experiences like you had, like I had, you know. And so if you can try to get that and get them a little bit better and get them to enjoy that and have a great career, that's what's fun for me. Like, I mean, I want them to experience winning a championship because you know how it feels, you know? So, that's probably, you know, by far the best feeling is just seeing, and we've had that with a freshman this year where we changed something a little bit. And she's like, I heard her last week telling another player, well, this is what I did. And this is what kind of turned the page for me. And to hear that off to the side when I don't even think they were paying attention, knew I was around, is pretty cool. The toughest thing about coaching, I would say, there's a few things, but understanding the athlete and the mental approach and the mental things that they're dealing with on an everyday basis is just different than when I was a player. The social media stuff is just, you know, through the roof, and it's all about the social media posts, and you know, so there's a lot that they deal with from an outside perspective, and for us to try to get them to shut that out and find purpose in themselves and find the strength from in themselves instead of worrying about, well, you know, they say females have to look good to play good, have to feel good to play good, and guys are kind of the opposite. But you know, for females, like, why are we looking for someone else to make us happy? And that's what my career is going to be dependent on. I mean, you got to find your reasons and your whys and what makes you happy with what you're doing. And don't look for that from someone else, you know? So finding that inner strength to go, hey, this is me, this is what I'm going to do. And I can make myself happy. You know what I mean? I choose, it's a choice every day. And if I choose to, this is what I want to do, and I'm going at it, then I'm okay. I can look myself in the mirror at the end of the day and know I tried my best. I'm putting in effort, and I don't need, you know, other people to pat me on the back necessarily. Like, it's great, but just finding that from within instead of just listening to the bombardment of everybody else, whether it's other athletes or other parents or social media posts, are like, it's just so much. And like, if we can get them to turn that off a little bit, I think it helps them focus and just not be as stressed, you know? I mean, it's a different world, I think, than, you know, now it's a different world. But that's tough. I mean, the transfer portal is crazy. You know, kids are used to being on travel teams that have 9, 10, 11 kids. They play all the time. So it's hard when you get to a 18, 20 man, 24 man college roster and they don't understand why they don't get to play, because they've never had to fight for it, because if they didn't play, they just went to another team. So those are, you know, things that we all coaches are dealing with right now. And it's hard pill to swallow for some, but finding a way to understand that the team is more important than me and my playing time, and getting yourself into the team and the team success, because when the team succeeds, you succeed. Like, that picture is what we've tried to focus on this year. The team's bigger than me. The team's more important than me. And if you can get out of yourself and get into your teammates, it just makes everything more fun and enjoyable. And, you know, that's where we're trying to go, but it's hard. I mean, you know, you deal with athletes all the time. You know how these high school kids are. It's just a different world. But, you know, we've shifted our perspective recently too, and just trying to go after kids that do come from good high school programs, that understand that a roster may be, you know, 15, 20 deep, and know how to compete in games that matter, not just showcase stuff that they're trained to think like the only thing that matters is my stats. You know, for the last 10 years of travel ball, it's my stats and that's all that matters. And so flipping that switch, or getting kids that come from high school programs that understand that has been a pretty big deal for us too.
Yeah, that's a really big challenge that all of you face. And we talk to athletes and then their surroundings. We've talked with parents before, with a group that I work with What Drives Winning. And we talk about what's most important to you. And no one ever lists the batting average. None of the support system ever lists the batting average or the number of innings played. They always talk about teamwork, building character. So we typically try to challenge them on what questions do you ask first then, right? Because usually the first question is, how many hits did you get? Well, did you win? How many hits did you get? So we tell them that's what we value. So that's what they value. So we try to shift that in a sense where, what do we value the most? And you hear coaches like Dawn Staley from South Carolina, different coaches talk about really emphasizing that is your creation of who you become is far more valuable, right? But it's hard to do when the measurements don't match up with what's important. So then we move away from what's important and we go to the measurement. So we totally appreciate that. Every coach we talk to pretty much says the same exact things that you have said. Some didn't list all of them, some listed all of them, some listed, but they're all the same. And so I guess the beauty is that you guys are in it together and you can find solutions together, right? It's like misery.
We're trying,
right? It's so hard, but we admire, I know Kyle would agree with me. We admire what you do, and we are admiring what you are doing specifically at Montevallo. It's really cool to watch. I will definitely be out for a game. I've just got to work particular weekends and stuff like that and fit things in, but no doubt want to come watch you guys play. I love your facility. I think it's a beautiful school. I think you have so many things going for you there. And what a great conference. Kyle and I get to sit here. We get to sit here in Birmingham, watch a great high school ball. We get to watch SEC softball. We get to watch Gulf South Conference softball. It's unbelievable. It's like the Mecca. If you love softball, we could not be in a better place.
Yeah. That was one of the things we talked about, you know, when I was interviewing, was how just like, you know, where are you going to recruit from? I'm like, man, I hope we can pull some Birmingham kids, because
right here.
they're really good. I mean, we don't have to go far. I mean, you know, We just got to build it so that they want to come here. And like you said, the school's great. The facilities are great. It's really pretty down here. You don't have to deal with traffic from a day-to-day standpoint, but you're close to Birmingham. I mean, you're 30 minutes from whatever you want, but you don't have to deal with traffic every day either. So it's kind of cool. I mean, our kids definitely go up there and do their own thing, but campus is
there's
great.
A great coach. Listen, we've enjoyed this. This has been so good. How would I not want to come play for you? I mean, it's just what a pleasure, what a blessing it is to have you in our area and to know our kids can have a chance to go play at Montevallo. It's awesome.
Thank you. It's just like I said, our kids get the credit. They work hard. They've listened. They've bought in, and it's on them. I can't play for them, and I can try to help them, and they just, if they don't listen, they don't get better, but they are, and so it's on them, and they've done a great job, and so I think they're moving in the right direction, and we're moving in the right direction. It's been fun.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Coach, one more thing to ask you before you get out of here. I ask a lot of coaches this. There's a lot of high school players, a lot of high school parents that just, quite frankly, they don't know where to go, what to do. So if there's a piece of advice that you would have for high schoolers that know they want to play in college and aren't quite sure what to do and where to go, what do you say to people like that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's a lot of, you're going to get different answers if you talk to coaches. Absolutely. For me and my experience from playing career, getting recruited to coaching, I think if you go narrow your schools down, find a list, make a list of where you want to go, options that are within your driving range, or, whatever your parameters are that fit your education needs, and then go on campus, go to camps, go watch them play, and see if you feel like, hey, I can fit in that environment. I can excel in that environment. I think I could play for that coach. I think I couldn't play for that coach. I mean, coaches are different on game day than they are on a recruiting visit, so you gotta do your homework a little bit to know if it's a good fit for me or it's not. But, go on campus, because you don't know what you're getting in. You want to try to do your best to know what you're getting into. And the more you're at their camps, the more you're at their games, watching them interact with their players, the more you're going to know and make a better educated decision. But you got education factors, you got usually surrounding area as far as like distance wise from home. And most Southern kids don't want to go too far. So that's part of it. But, do your homework. That's the best thing I can tell you, because if you just go on recruiting visits and that's it, you're going to see something different from a lot of coaches on that day versus the everyday norm. Talk to players. If you know players within the organization that are already playing there, talk to them, get feedback from them. They're going to tell you the truth of what it's like. And that's all you want to know at the end of the day, what's it like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I think that's the beauty of it. Every coach has a different answer to that question, and there's different tidbits that people will take from that to kind of guide what they're ultimately going for. So, with that being said, I think that's all we got. Coach Wade, anything else you want to add before we let you go?
Come see us. Montevallo is a great school, great programs. Academics are really good. The campus is beautiful. Come see us. Check us out.
I will be one of those people that is getting to a Montevallo game at some point here soon. So, Coach Wade, we really appreciate you coming on today. And that's been Beth Wade on the Four Corners Softball Pod.
Thank you.
Well, that was awesome. Beth Wade, we really appreciate her coming on. Lots of great insight, cool stories, and big luck to Montevallo as they get rolling this year as well. And now let's dive into one of the fan favorite segments. What's Barry thinking? He's always up to something. I love catching up with him at the ballpark. He is doing an interview with an umpire director this week. So I'm sure he's got tons of great questions. Barry's probably never argued with an umpire, never disagreed in his entire coaching career. So let's check out what Barry Brake's thinking today.
Hey, welcome to the third episode of Four Corners Softball Podcast. Getting a lot of information from Kyle believe it or not, we're getting a lot of information from Kyle, and thank goodness Coach Johns is carrying the segment through there. Hey, today I'm with Don Atkins. Don Atkins works for the Alabama High School Athletic Association. He is the Northern Central District Director of Umpires for high school softball in the state of Alabama.
Correct.
Okay. A question that always comes up. You've been to games. We've seen calls made on the field. Everybody gets it wrong. Half the time, parents don't understand what's going on. Half the time, coaches don't understand what's going on. Our topic today is obstruction and interference. Don, tell us the difference in the rules. What is the rule?
Difference between obstruction and interference is who causes it. Interference is always caused by the offensive team. Obstruction is always caused by the defensive team. Now, simple. Interference is anytime a player, offensive team, hinders a defensive player from making a play on the ball. It could be verbal or it could be contact or non-contact or verbal. Either way, everyone put it. If it hinders that player from making the play, then you got interference. It is a dead ball call, and it always results in an out.
Okay, so let me make sure we're clear on this right here. If a shortstop is catching a ground ball and a runner from second base runs into that shortstop as she's trying to catch the ball, we've got an out.
Even if she feels the ball cleanly. Contact was made, it's a dead ball, it's interference, and that runner's out.
If there's other runners on base, what happens to those runners?
They go back to the base they came from.
We got an out where it occurred, they go back.
Right.
And then we keep playing ball.
That's correct.
Okay, interference.
That was interference.
Obstruction. Obstruction. See how we get it wrong?
Obstruction occurs from the offensive team. Say a runner's on first. Let me give a brief definition. Obstruction is anything that hinders or impedes a runner progress to a base. It could be from a catcher obstructing, almost messed it up, catcher obstructing a ball, the batter from hitting the ball, like getting out in front of the plate and catching it. Okay, that's a whole another set of rules there. Say I got a runner at second, going to steal third. Third baseman slides in and blocks the base coming into third as she slides in without the ball. The rule states the player, the defensive player, has to possess the ball. Then she can block the base. If it hinders or impedes that runner's progress to the base, it's a delayed call and the runner's safe.
How far is the runner protected? Just to the next base or to as many bases as they could get?
In the umpire's judgment, depending on where the ball is, coming from the outfield or infield, they can grant them another base or two, depending on where the ball is. If the umpire's judgment thinks that runner could have made it to the next base safely had she not been obstructed, then you proceed to the next base.
Hey, with the popularity of softball across the Southeast and really across the country, how has it impacted umpires in the state of Alabama as far as getting new umpires into the program, retaining older umpires? How has that affected the industry?
Two questions there. Recruiting umpires now is harder than it was when I got in this 30 years ago, because everybody wanted to work. We were coming, can't remember what year it was, high school softball was coming from slow pitch to fast pitch. So we had a split season, I don't know, that was a long time ago. So umpires are coming from a slow pitch field into a fast pitch organization. And the popularity, not only the growth, has quadrupled over the last 20 years. It's incredible. More players, more teams, it's more popular, it's on television. And I think there's more people that watch the World Series in college than that watch the World Series in baseball, which I kind of like. Holding umpires years ago wasn't hard. Now it's difficult to get new guys to hang around 3 or 4 years and stay in the program until they can move up to some varsity ball or get that good to be in varsity level ball. And a lot of old guys, and I'm pointing to myself, are finally retiring and they've had enough. They've been doing a long time. Or a lot of them, and we've got 3, and I'm not going to mention names in this stickers, have got health issues. So they're not getting back on the field again.
Hey, Don, appreciate your time today.
Thank you, my friend.
All of you out there, hey, understand the rules between obstruction and interference. I think we messed it up right here once or twice. Hey, we'll send it back to Kyle. Coach Johns, please keep carrying the rest of the program for him. Four Corners Softball.
Always great stuff from Barry Brake there. Yeah, just quite a guy. No, you've got to love him. He's also special thanks to the couple of Gardendale players that he recruited to do a little demonstration there for us. So good stuff there. Hope you guys learned something. I want to take this time to give a special thanks to Scouttown Sports. If you've got a travel team involved with one, coaching one, you're going to want to be in a Scouttown Sports event this summer. They got a big summer planned, hosting 3 tournaments. The USA Scouttown Showcase is May 26th through 28th in Montgomery. The USA Scouttown Showcase is June 30th through July 2nd in Birmingham. And the USA Scouttown Capital City Showcase is July the 28th through the 30th in Montgomery. Mark Purvis, Matt Jones do an outstanding job running those tournaments and Scouttown organization. So go check them out. Be a part of those events. You can find them on Facebook at Scouttown Sports, and you can check them out online, scouttown.sportengine.com. Get your team in one of those tournaments this summer. 6 innings, no time limits, so you're guaranteed to get tons of great quality action with your team in those tournaments. All right, Karen, well, let's go right into Four Corners. Let's just kind of go around and talk about some different things going on in softball. Let's start off with first base. We talked about this last time we were on because you mentioned Montana Fouts is you saw her start to round into form, and she's definitely doing that. She threw a perfect game last week, 19 shutout innings. She has not allowed a run in 6 straight outings. Montana she's looking really strong right now.
She really is. The thing about Montana right now is she has such great command, and that's why she's able to throw all these scoreless innings. She's not walking people. She's going up in the zone. She's using that down pitch really effective this year. She is an absolute force, probably without a doubt, top 3 pitchers in the country right now.
Yeah, so it seems like one of those things where I know, Alabama is really trying to solidify, what they've got behind her on that pitching staff, but that's a really good place to start, isn't it?
It really is. And, last night was an example of what they were trying to accomplish. They played Western Michigan. Jayla Torrance gave them 5 good, solid innings of like 1 hit, I think 1 or 2 hits. She gave up the home run solo. And then Montana came in, closed it out, dominated for 2 innings. That's exactly what the doctor ordered for Alabama softball. And that's what they're working for. And really all weekend long, all those pitchers threw well. Competition level wasn't super high, but they hadn't been able to achieve that in the past. And I think that's the difference for Alabama right now.
Yeah, no doubt. So if Montana can keep that form and they can get some really solid contributions from the rest of that staff, sky's the limit for this Alabama team. They will get rolling in SEC play in a couple weeks here. But let's roll that into second base. Southeastern Conference play is going to start for a lot of teams this weekend, including Auburn, who is taking on Georgia. What's your kind of first impressions of this opening series for Auburn?
Yeah, it's kind of intriguing for me. Auburn going on the road to play at Georgia, which is always a tough place to play. They always have great crowds, but Georgia has just not been very consistent, and Georgia's pitching has really struggled. So the great hitting of Georgia versus the great pitching of Auburn is really fascinating to me. And then Auburn hitters going on the road, playing against really top-level competition, that's going to give them a good measuring stick onto where they're going to go. So that's going to be a really fascinating series.
Absolutely. And Alabama's got one more weekend before they get into SEC play. That matchup with Texas is going to be pretty interesting this weekend, huh?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Texas is off to a strong start. Their offense is incredible. They always have great pitching. Coach Mike White, he's a master at pitching. And that's going to give Alabama another good true test before they enter into SEC play. Facing a really tough team on the road. Great setup for Alabama to move into the following weekend when they start SEC play too. Absolutely.
No, that's going to be a lot of fun stuff to watch this weekend and keep up with. So as that gets rolling, it'll be really, really interesting to see which teams really start to rise and which teams start to separate themselves, because that's the story. The ones that get through this non-conference schedule and kind of, it's not so much how many wins you pile up, but what have you figured out about yourselves, and what do you bring to the table once that competition level really ramps up? All right, on to third base. Let's talk about some junior college teams. The JUCO slate here in Alabama is just starting to get cranked up. There's 4 teams as of our recording that are 4-0 in the conference so far, getting doubleheader sweeps this past week. Wallace State, Marion Military, Coastal North, and Bishop State all off to 4-0 starts. Those teams you got to be happy when you can get a couple of doubleheader sweeps right off the bat, don't you?
Yeah, no doubt. That the thing that you try to avoid as a team is to get swept. So when you go and sweep teams, you've established yourself to move forward in a good position. And all 4 of those teams doing that is just incredible. So it's going to be really fascinating, especially when those teams collide. See where they're able to separate themselves from each other. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, no doubt. And then those teams that have started out 2-2 or 0-4 that are pretty good teams. They've got some catching up to do, but they'll be hot on the heels as well. So JUCO, I got to see some of a couple of those Alabama JUCO teams at the National Preview Tournament in Oxford a few weekends ago, and I can confirm that. Alabama JUCO ball stacks up with teams from all over the Southeast. So looking forward to seeing that get rolling as well. Give a hat tip to South Alabama and Troy as they are about to get rolling in Sun Belt play. South Alabama had a big win over Auburn last weekend, and Troy and Eric Newell's first year is starting to figure things out as well. So lots of really quality programs in this state. You know that several of them are going to be doing big things. And then finally, home plate. Let's talk about some high school ball. Karen, your Hewitt-Trussville Huskies have been off to a really good start. They don't have that power like they've had in the past. Well, let me take that back. We didn't think they were going to have that power. And then you look at their box scores from the last couple of games, and they are hitting home runs by the bundle. And it's a bunch of players that the state probably hasn't gotten to know just yet, but it looks like they're going to.
Yeah, they are strong 1 through 9, and they have speed to go with that power.
Yeah,
that's what's unbelievable. So their offense is going to be so tough for people to stop. And the fascinating matchups are going to be against those top level pitchers. Vestavia's getting great pitching. Hoover's getting great pitching. Spain Park's getting great pitching. Thompson. It's going to be like Goliath versus Goliath when we see those matchups later down the road here, which I truly hope I can get out to see in person. I really want to go watch those games. But yeah, I was looking at those scores all weekend. I was like, man, they're like, go for two. I thought they were hitting touchdowns. So yeah, it was pretty neat to see for the Huskies. And of course, they're near and dear to my heart because I'm right here in Trussville. So it's fun.
Yeah. No, it's been really impressive. And, Taylor Burton does such a good job there. And they're going to be fun to watch. You mentioned some of those big matchups. There's Hewitt-Trussville's area. There's 2 areas here in 7A ball in Birmingham that only the top 2 out of each area are going to advance to a 4-team regional, all against each other, and only 2 of them are going to make the state tournament here in a couple of months. So that is going to be fascinating to watch, and there's going to be some really, really intense games as we get going in the area play and a postseason play and all of that. I want to touch on a game that I saw on Tuesday night. I went out to Hoover and saw Hartzell take down Hoover 3-2 in 10 innings. And this is the kind of game that you love to see. It was pressure packed, intense, big moments. I had all of that. Some of you that have followed the game statewide for a while will know who Hartzell pitcher Blaine Godfrey is. She's committed to Auburn, and her sister Britton is her catcher. They're a great tandem. Well, Blaine comes on in relief in this game, throws 6 innings, strikes out double digits, but she hits the go-ahead home run herself in the 10th inning to lead Hartzell to the win. It was just a really good ball game. Hoover had bases loaded, 2 outs in the 9th. and Blaine was able to get a strikeout to get out of that. There was a lot of really cool stuff in that game. And even on the Hoover side, I mean, Olivia Christian threw all 10 innings. She was spectacular. And her catcher, Lindsay Westhoven, hits her first varsity home run last night. So just a lot of really cool stuff. And like, I love the perspective of being able to just watch these games, because the big moments, they're so fun to be a part of. But at the same time, like, you're almost a little jealous, because if I was associated with a team, like, those cool moments would be that much more. Does that make sense?
Sure. No, it totally makes sense, because I was following you at that game, making sure I kept up to date with what was going on. And I was like, I wanted to reach out to you and say, hey, just put him in the car and drive him over to Oxford right now, because it was like incredible. And I can't imagine what the feeling was like in that environment. But I agree with you. Yes, it is super nice. But, Kyle, when you go watch a game, you try to think like a college coach, and you say, who do I not want to face? Because that's the one I want on my team. And Blaine is certainly that kid. I don't want to have to face her for 4 years in college. And the SEC is going to have to face her for 4 years in college with the bat and in the circle. So, yeah, big time performance in a big time environment. And you can't ask for more than that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I do want to roll that over into our team spotlight today, who's going to be the Hoover Bucks. They're being led by first-year head coach Trey Matlock, who's been an assistant in the program for several years. Lexi Shrout done a tremendous job there over the past several years. She just wanted to take a step back. She had a third child and was like, hey, it's time for me to take a next step and be, more with my family. Matlock steps in. They're off to a really good start. They finished 4th at state 2 years ago, 3rd at state last year. This is a program that is back at the highest level of 7A. And tell me how difficult. So I think of in terms of like Hewitt Trussell's offense the last several years, sluggers up and down the lineup, so hard to keep in the ballpark. Well, this Hoover lineup, 6 out of their 9 are slappers. I mean, they're going 1 through 6, just lefty, 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 all speed. I mean, that's got to be so difficult to contain as a coach.
Yeah, the pressure that they put on defense because of what they're able to do. They don't strike out much. They put the ball in play. They force you into a faster mode than maybe you're used to playing. So that in itself puts a lot of pressure on the defense. So as teams are preparing for them, it's hard to duplicate that in practice because you don't have that many speedsters to keep going. So what happens when you're preparing for a team like Hoover, you wear your fast kids out because you keep on offense the whole time, help your defense get faster and quicker. And so it's a really tough go, and it's a really tough preparation because of that speed. And yeah, I would not want to have to face that. I would not have to deal with that at practice in my preparation when you have to go against them. And the thing is that Hoover has embraced that. A lot of teams would be like, oh man, we don't have the power. We got, we can't hit home runs like we used to, whatever the situation. Not Hoover. Hey, we're good. We're going to play and we're going to compete and we're going to go after it just like everybody else. And we're going to use our strengths, because really a single could be a double for them, because they get on first base, they're going to get to second. So they don't necessarily have to hit the gaps all the time, and then, use that speed to their advantage.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, they've got a couple hitters in the middle of that lineup that can do some damage. I mean, you think about Max Stribling, Caitlin Rains, even mentioned Lindsay Westhoven getting her first home run the other night. So this team, combined that with having Caitlin Rains, Olivia Christian, Emily Sims back in the circle, all of them pitched a lot a year ago. This is going to be a pretty good Hoover team. I've gotten to see them a few times already, and they looked a part of a team that, if they're gelling and playing well at the right time come May, they'll be a factor. Well, Karen, unless you've got anything else, I believe that's all on our docket today.
No, I think we're ready for the weekend. I know that.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I want to thank you guys for hanging in with us. This is the 3rd episode, and we're having a lot of fun doing this, and really appreciate you tuning in, offering your insights and thoughts onto what we've got going on here. So Yeah, you can reach me at Kyle Parmley on Twitter. Many thanks for tuning in, and hey, let's do it again next week, Karen. How's that?
Sounds good, Kyle.
All right. We'll see you next time.